Congressman, it's great to have you on. Now, Democrat Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton says she may call Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg to testify at congressional hearings about supply chain cargo trains in L.A. looted by thieves. Is this a serious push? Is that going to happen?
Well, we'll see. Things are bad when even the Democrats are calling on the Secretary of Transportation to even show up. Secretary Pete may still be on paternity leave. He's been absent most of this crisis, and the crisis continues to get worse. And now it's intersecting with another crisis, which is this crime wave that's sweeping the nation. And this isn't just Amazon Prime boxes being robbed off trains in a script right out of the 1800s. We got cops and kids getting killed across the country. I mean, California may be the worst, but this is happening in my home state of Wisconsin. We had a record number of homicides in Milwaukee last year with 197. We had 6 people killed yesterday. From Chicago to New York, organized retail theft and violence against cops is getting worse, and Americans don't feel safe. And that's a direct result of the defund the police policies we've seen and the push on that front we've seen from the Democrats, as well as soft on crime DAs, particularly in liberal parts of this country.
Yeah, stay on that for a second, because, by the way, the transportation secretary, by the way, has been criticized for being AWOL on this after being in L.A. at the port there, saying, the White House saved Christmas. But, so they go soft on crime in California while hyper-regulating truckers. You know what I mean? The Union Pacific is blaming, to your point, weak on crime LA DA George Gascon. No judicial deterrence or consequences. They sent him a letter citing hundreds of arrests, but less than half are booked. Some are released in less than 24 hours.
It's an absolute disaster. Well, quickly on the weak DA piece, we had a similar story play out in Wisconsin, a tragedy where you had someone let out in bail by a weak on crime DA who then went and mowed people down at a holiday parade recently. I mean, absolute tragedy as a result of these terrible policies. On the trucking issue, the trucking industry, which is big in my district, is seeing a major workforce shortage. And when we see empty shelves in stores, we need to do everything we can do to ensure drivers can get to the stores as soon as possible, not impose vaccine mandates for non-U.S. truck drivers that go back and forth across the U.S.-Canadian border, which the Biden administration has done, which we should stop. We should make the flow of goods as seamless as possible. The answer is the complete opposite of California's hyper-regulation. And at a broader level, we need to figure out how we get more people interested in trucking, which involves fixing our K-12 education system to get kids right into the workforce.
Yeah, we hear you. Do you think California is ground zero of the supply chain crisis?
I do. I mean, obviously, we saw crazy counterproductive policies at the port facilities there, not allowing certain Connex boxes to be stopped. But honestly, if you take a step back, I think the bigger issue for the supply chain crisis, you got to go further west all the way to China, which is our hyper dependency on China. The fact is we've been integrating China into the global economy for the better part of 3 decades now, and it's made us very dependent on an increasingly hostile foreign power. So what we need to do is bring a lot of that critical manufacturing back to the United States, especially when it comes to things like semiconductors, chips, rare earths. We just simply can't give the Chinese Communist Party that amount of leverage over us, as well as allow them to cheat and undermine the American worker.
Do you think they're sticking it to us? Because we heard late last year that this was starting to be a burgeoning problem in China, where China was delaying shipments and hiking the fees and the costs of those shipments. Your final word.
Well, China would never miss an opportunity to stick it to us. Their whole goal is to kick us out of the Indo-Pacific and undermine our role as a global superpower. And we know in the early stage of the pandemic, they threatened to cut off the flow of life-saving drugs in order to plunge the United States into the sea of coronavirus, as one of their diplomats put it. So absolutely, they like to weaponize these supply chains against us.
Got it. Congressman Mike Gallagher, that's scary stuff. We're going to stay on the story. It's good to have you on, Congressman. That was a great interview. Come back soon.